Yeah. Learning the Sikha, this is in Chelik Tes, Parshas Nitzavim, page 179. Siv Dalet. Wrong copy? No. Okay, to recap what we learned last week, the Rebbe here is speaking about the Pasuk in Parshas Nitzavim, V'shav avaya lekecha shavuscha. Rashi explains that the pshat on this Pasuk is that it says V'shav, Hashem returns with the Yidden that return. The reason is because when Yidden are in Golos, the Eibush is in Golos together with the Yidden. Okay, so the Rebbe explained there in Sif Gimel, what does it mean that the Eibush is in Golos with Yidden? There's two ways that can be taken. One way to take that is that the Eibush is here to protect us in Golos. He doesn't allow us to be under the jurisdiction of Golos, under the Teva of Golos, like you find by the Ovis and so on. Another end, though, and that's what you learn from this pasuk, is actually making the opposite point. That Hashem is with Yidden in Golos, Rashi's Medayik, B'tzaras Golusan. That the Eibishter Kaviyachol is actually together with the suffering of a Yid in Golos. Not only that the Eibishter is here with Yidden in Golos to protect us, but here we're talking about a different Inyan, different point. Every time a Yid has a Golos and a Yid suffers in any way, Hashem is there together with the Yid, experiencing the pain, the Golos with him. And that's what you learn out from V'shav Hashem lekecha shavuscha. So now let's continue Sifei. The Rebbe will elaborate on this point. Sif Dalet, page 179, the first column. Our sages learn specifically from here this point. So the question on this is, the Rebbe asked before, Hagam, es is a befeidische pasuk l'chayre, imoy anechi b'tzara. It's a clear pasuk that says that Hashem is always with a Yid in a time of pain and trouble. So why does Rashi say, we learn from this pasuk that Hashem is with a Yid? So the explanation here is as follows. From the pasuk, imoy anechi b'tzara veismen blois, that pasuk that says that Hashem is with a Yid in the time of pain, all we understand from that is, as mitzader goydel hachibe from Eibishn Yidden, because of the tremendous love Hashem has for Yidden, is when Yidden gefinnen sich in Hatzare, Rachmana litzlan, wird euch der Eibishn davon eng kaviyachol. When Hashem sees Yidden, or any specific Yid, experiencing any suffering, so he's pained by it. Like a father that sees a child, God forbid, going through any suffering, so it's a pain for the father. Even if the father himself is not involved and is not suffering from the very same thing that the child is suffering from, but witnessing a child suffer in any way is painful for the father. That's what Imay Nechi B'tzara means. Hashem sees the Yidden that he loves, his children suffering, so the very fact that the Yidden are suffering, causes him pain.
That's why it says Ima.
Yeah, with the Yid, correct. This is the famous thing that it says regarding the sneh that Hashem appears to Moshe Rabbeinu from a thorn bush, a doren was stecht, a thorn that will poke a person, to demonstrate as sich mishtatif b'tzaram shel Yisrael. So the expression Chazal used there is that Hashem participates in the tzar of Yidden. What does this expression of mishtatif mean? Mishtatif doesn't mean that he experiences the same suffering from the same source that Yidden are experiencing. What it means is that Hashem is so close, such a close love and relationship, so he feels that there's not only the sympathy, but the empathy. Hashem feels the actual suffering of Yidden. In Machen Eng, yeah, correct. He takes part though. It doesn't mean that he actually experiences the very same source of the suffering.
No, once Hashem was a human.
Right. No. In Machen Eng und Stechen Kaviyachol, the Tzares von Yidden Rachman litzlan. It's the Yidden's Tzares. It's not Hashem's Tzares. He's not there in that Tzara. Because he loves the Yidden, his children, so therefore for him it's painful to watch Yidden suffering and whatever they're suffering from. No, it's different. Okay. Aber das, was im Machen eng die Tzares von Yidden, what we learn from that pasuk, that Hashem is in pain, witnessing, seeing Yidden suffer, meint noch nicht, dass is in Galus. It doesn't mean that Hashem himself is there with Yidden in the Galus itself. As his blois was the Yiddish Tzar and Tzaris, Fashafen im Tzar. It's the Tzar of the Yidden which cause Hashem pain. Aber mikan from dem pasuk b'Parshasenu. It's here from this pasuk where it says V'shav avaya lekecha that Hashem returns with the Yidden that return from Galus. Learn areis Rabbeinu sha'ashchina shruya im Yisrael b'tzaras galusam, and that the Shechina Kaviyachol is with Yidden in Galus. The pain of the Galus is directly affecting the Shechina. As the Shechina allein is Kaviyachol zusammen mit Yidden in Galus. That Kaviyachol, the Eibishter himself, is in the Galus together with Yidden. So that's something that we see only from the term V'shav, that Hashem returns. Meaning that Hashem is not just in a different place watching the suffering of the Yidden in Galus, and that causes him pain. And the Rebbe spells it out in order 35. Take a look. One possibility is a king that has a child, and the king remains in the palace, and he remains in a comfortable place, but he watches the child that's in exile, that's suffering, and that itself causes pain to the father, the king. The father himself leaves his place and palace and goes down there to be together with his child in the Galus, and he suffers together with his son. Or furthermore, the father even goes there to be in prison where the child is doing dirty work, teichen, in prison. The father goes down to the level of the child to be there with the actual pain that he has, which is an expression of an even deeper love. That's what it's all really based on. The father that sees the suffering of the child but remains in the palace, so you don't have the level of love that's expressed to the point that the father is ready to leave his place and join and be there together with his child in the matzav that he's suffering. But a deeper level of love is learned from this pasuk. V'shav avaya, the Eibishter comes and is with us, Kaviyachol, suffering with the Yid when he's in Galus.
So it's at least the second, maybe the third one.
Yeah. So here, so far, what the Rebbe explained here in the Sikh is 3 points about the fact that Hashem is with Yidden and Galus. The fact that Hashem is with us to assist us. The fact that Hashem is here with Yidden and Galus never lets us alone. He never lets us to the laws of nature. Eibishter lifts up Yidden and always saves us and helps us. That's the first point that we learned last week, Sif Gimel. And here the Rebbe says, the fact that Hashem feels a Yid, the fact that Hashem loves and feels a Yid, there's also 2 levels to that. Either he feels them, but it remains removed, b'derech makif, to use the expression of Chassidus, or by from pnimi. The Eibishter is actually there, experiencing with the Yid in Galus.
It could be the higher one. Just be bothered by some.
Okay, let's continue Sifei. Al pizeh verta b'deshayla. If this is the case, that the Eibishter Kaviyachol comes down to be in Galus, he leaves his palace, leaves his whole level, Elokus is Yerid, comes down to be with Yid in Galus. Bald, as the Eibishter is b'tzaras galusam, if the Eibishter is with Yidin in the pain of Galus, Oich is Kaviyachol b'Galusum, as the Eibishter himself is present here in the Galus with amongst the nations, and via Zoi wird auslesen sich zusammen mit Yidin from Galus. So how does Hashem Kaviyachol redeem himself along with Yidin from Galus? The Eibishter himself is in exile. So it's a simple logical thing, and you see clearly, even a child understands this, as ein chavush mater esatzmei. A prisoner can't free himself. So if the Eibishter is like a melech that's in the palace and sees the suffering of Yidin, so the Eibishter redeems Yidin because he's above the Galus. But if the Eibishter is here and present, he placed himself into the Galus, Kaviyachol. B'ritzaynai, of course, it's all with the Ratzon of the Eibishter. But the Eibishter B'ritzaynai was magbal himself and mitzamtzim himself to be there in the matzav of a Yid, in the place, in the level, in the reality that he's suffering. So how is there any possibility of redemption that Hashem redeems Yidden from Galus? Of them Zokt Rashi, therefore we have a unique expression that Rashi says here when he explains this. Ukesh and Egolim. When Yidden are redeemed, hichtiv gu'ula la'atzmai. So the Rebbe before asked over here, what does this expression mean? Hichtiv gu'ula la'atzmai. Hashem writes into Torah a source of redemption for himself. What this means is, Eide der Eibishter hat sich hereingestellt in Galus. Before Hashem willingly enters and places himself in this reality of Golus, reingeschrieben, Hashem already in advance wrote into the Torah. Then, when Yidden were in the Midbar, the Eibishter says this to Yidden and writes into the Torah, as when es wird kommen, des man von the Golem, that when the time for Yidden to be redeemed will arrive, the Yidden wollen davon ausgelesen werden von Golus, sollen die Sorim, welche herrschen auf Yidden mit den Eibishten, Kaviyachel, so all the ministers, ministering angels that rule over Yidden and Kaviyachel, the Eibishter himself, nithoben king Deya in dem Veshova Vaylekecha. They'll have absolutely no opinion and no power when it comes to time the Yidden should be redeemed. So on one hand, the Eibishter is completely in Golus together with the Yid. There's a real tzimtzum in the Yid. The Eibishter is fully here, b'pnimius, in the matzav that the Yid is in. But at the very same time, the Eibishter in advance, but it's all with the Ratzon of the Eibishter, obviously. The Eibishter is not restricted by anything. He sets it up, when the time to be redeemed comes, Hichtiv, it's already written that at that point, any power over Hashem with the Yidden does not exist anymore. That's what Rashi means here with this expression. Und das meint Rashi mit dem Lashon Hichtiv geole la'atzmai, als hat reingeschrieben für sich a Geula. Hashem writes into the Torah in advance a Geula for himself. Yes, the Rebbe clarifies one more point there. Kem and doch meinen. So now you may think, if Hashem in advance writes into Torah the possibility to be redeemed is be'eses vet kumen des managula, so when the time of redemption arrives, vet frier der Eibishter allein is going from Golus. For who is it easier to leave? For Hashem or for the Yidden? For the Eibishter can leave much quicker. But Rega Kememre, to schlep a Yid out of Golus, it can be harder to take a Yid out of Golus. The famous word, to take the Yid out of the Golus, take the Golus out of the Yid. But for the Eibishter himself, when the moment of Gola comes, the Eibishter leaves Golus immediately. Und erst danach wird auslesen die Yidden. And only afterwards will he come and redeem Yidden. So you may think that's how this is going to work. Adarabba, the Eibishter is the one that redeems Yidden. First, he leaves Golus, and only then he elevates Yidden out of Golus. So Rashi clarifies, and that's true. Yoshuv Mohem. The Eibishter comes out of Golus together with Yidden. As der Vishov, Avayle Kecha, wat sein, es, Shavuscha, zusammen mit dem Umkehr von Yidden. The Eibishter goes out of Golus along together with Yidden. He doesn't go in ahead. The Eibishter doesn't go in advance out of Golus. Kolzman, es wird nicht schlimm werden. Dem Kibbutz Golius von alle Yidden, as long as the gathering of the Golus of all Yidden in all corners of the world, a fill of them blaze ein Yid wird noch sein in Golus. If there's even only one Yid somewhere in the world that's suffering in Golus, is Shchine Shruye im Yisrael b'tzaras Galusan. The Eibishter is with Yidden and Golus the entire time. That's what we learn from this pasuk according to the first chat in Rashi. So until there, the point that the Rebbe is explaining, that Rashi is telling us, is the extent of the Eibishter's presence together with a Yid in any Golus Klali, the Golus Aprati, whatever it is, till the very last moment for every single Yid. The continuation of the Sikha, we'll learn next week, that Hashem, Sivav, and Vaite, the Rebbe will now explain the Geula aspect of this, the redemption, that the Eibishter is redeemed together with Yidden. So we'll see Hashem next week. Sivav. The might of is 9:30. So for this time of the year, we have to cut the share a little shorter. Sivav Mitzvah.
Next time we start from Vav.
Yep. You'll remember? I'll remind you next week. Sivav.